On the bench today is a Philips EL3302 cassette tape recorder. The EL3302 is the second revision of the EL3300, which is the first cassette tape recorder that Philips ever made. Actually, the first one anyone ever made. I also have a EL3301. This one's Norelco branded. Philips brand wasn't sold in North America because of a trademark dispute with Philco. So in North America they used the brand name Norelco, or North American Electronics Company. This 3301 was sold in December of 1965, and I've already done a full restore on this one. But today I need to do a clean and service and replace the belts on this one, and the innards of these two are virtually identical. The mechanism on these is pretty basic. Up for forward, back to stop, left and right for fast forward or rewind. There's no latch, so you have to hold it. To record, you press the record button and then push forward. And to stop, you stop. The inputs and controls are just on this side here. DIN plugs instead of 3.5mm jacks. And you have your playback volume and your record level. The 3300 is pretty rare, and I doubt I'd be able to afford one if I ever found one for sale. This is the Norelco branded 3301. I'd love to find a Philips branded one if I could, but I haven't seen one for sale in North America. The differences are obvious. The buttons and controls are obviously different. The 3301 didn't have the clear window. The battery compartment on the 3301 is a little bit better. I think they did a cost savings on the case plastic there for the 3302. The basic design of this mechanism actually held out for a while. A couple other units that I have that have very similar controls. Forward, stop, only this one latches for fast forward and rewind. This Craig is slightly backwards. Pull back for play. And again, you have a latch for rewind and fast forward. The door is removable. That just snaps on and off. Battery cover. Here you can read the EL3302/52G. When these old belts degrade from age, they turn into goo. It's very nasty and very difficult to clean up. These pulleys all have to come out and get cleaned. You can't leave any of this goo on there because it'll degrade the new belts also. Take the motor cover off. Well, that fell apart nicely, didn't it? Now we can remove the capstan retainer. Here's a quick look at the EL3301 compared to the 3302. The 3302 added this motor speed control board here. There's also this guide slot here for this pivot point. I'm not sure why that was added. This piece right here on the 3301 is where screw hole for the case plastic bottom. And the battery contacts are different. Other than that, they're pretty much the same. The 3301 was a pain to clean up too. The belts had completely disintegrated just like this. I'm not sure what it is about the old rubber that they used in these belts, but they definitely liquefy after a while. I'm going to have to take this bracket off from the other side. I need to remove this. These are held on with vinyl snap rings instead of E-clips. So you kind of just got to grab them and pull, but you want to go slow so that they have time to stretch slowly without tearing. There's an arm that goes underneath the flywheel here, so I need to get this off at the same time. There is a spring right down here that presses this, and that's going to come up or come off. The spring is right here. Go. Capstan just pulled out, and I'm not seeing a retaining ring. This right here is the spring that hooked onto this pin right here. You want to be careful to make sure you don't lose this spring. I should stress that there's no need to take it all this far apart except to clean out the gunk. If you need to replace your belts and they were still intact and didn't turn to goo, you can probably just replace them straight up. It's inevitable that this black gunk is going to get all over your fingers. And then the problem is that it spreads when you touch something else. It's really a pain to clean up. This one's going to be a pain to get off because this arm's in the way, so I can't get to the retaining ring. It's going to require taking these screws out, which hold the spring and the brake arms in there. That spring in a very safe place. There's definitely belt residue on here. I got it up out of the slot. So now I've got all these pulleys removed. I've got to clean them up. I've got a big mess all over my hands and all over the table. But all of this goo has to come out. It's really thick in here. Ick. Alcohol, isopropyl. This pulley here has the take-up reel clutch mechanism in it. You can see right there that felt pad is designed to slip. I generally try to avoid getting that wet. Get the bulk of it with some Q-tips. You can use your thumbnail to get down inside the groove. Even when it looks like you've got most of it, there's still some way down in the center of the groove we need to get out. Still seeing some tiny amounts on the cloth when I go over it. And now we just have to repeat that a few times on 3 more pulleys. This little squeeze bottle filled with isopropyl alcohol is nice. I also have this little, it used to be eyeglass cleaner, but it's emptied out and now it's isopro in a spray bottle. Plenty of cotton swabs, of course, an old toothbrush, and some old rags, even paper towels. As you can imagine, it's extremely difficult to get these clean without removing them. Pulling them out just makes things so much easier. Still some remnants down deep in the groove. This rubber tire should be able to remove this so we can get things clean. Just spreading the residue all over this. I'm going to give some of this stuff a try. I haven't tried this before. Rubber Renew. Rejuvenates and conditions. It's supposed to make old rubber more flexible and grippy. This actually doesn't feel like it's in too bad a shape, but give this a try. First thing I need to put back is this part. And of course this wheel came off of there in the first place. For lubrication, I like to use this Superlube synthetic and this synthetic grease where grease is appropriate. Tiny little drop. Tiniest little vinyl snap ring. It hurts your finger a little bit, but if you push down really hard, the flesh will push around the ring, leaving an indent in your finger, but I can feel it snap in there. There's actually one more belt pulley that I forgot to clean. That's the one over here on the motor. This arm has to go underneath the capstan. And the capstan goes underneath here. They kind of have to go in at the same time. The tire rides against the flywheel. There's no belt on there, so it's not springing in that direction, but you'll see this pulls that over and releases that wheel. When you press play, this drops in and pushes against there. And I need to get the spring on here. Okay, I've got the spring on there, and I've got the idler against the tire. It's still not pressed all the way down. Oh, there we go. That tire always gets in the way. The spring is where it should be. Two small raised areas here help keep this little copper strip straight. Found my notes here. The EL3301 and 3302 both use a SB 2.6 and an 8.6. 2.6 and 8.6. Before putting it all back together, I wanted to check that the record switch was in the right place. Looks like it is. Record mechanism is interesting on this one. Here's your record protect tab. All that does is move this out of the way. Moving that out of the way allows you to push down on this. When you're able to push down on this, this little white tab catches when you push forward, and that's the record switch right there. When this is up and you push forward, it doesn't move that switch. But if it's down when you push forward, the switch gets pushed and stays there until you pull back to stop. The record switch is right here. Just slides this way and that way. I put a bunch of deoxit on the contacts here. When I put the board back, I have to make sure that this lever hooks onto these pegs. This aluminum overlay came off when I took it apart. I'm going to glue that. It's really interesting. These are the two contacts for the speakers that make a connection when you put it together. I don't have the, I should probably put the volume knobs on. I wanted to test it, but actually need to put the capstan retainer on back on first. Just going to put the tiniest amount of grease right here. This little polished dome rides on that little piece of plastic. It just keeps the capstan from falling out. And these openings are slotted so that you can adjust the height of the capstan retainer. You don't want it to be pressing too tight. I need to get it back in the case to test it because there's no way to hook up the batteries or the speaker while it's outside. These little springs seem to just thread on right here. The red knob goes in front. Forgot the record button. Well, the batteries in there are a little precarious, so let's see. Fast forward. Rewind. Not really getting any sound here. Looks like there's something going on right in here. Loose connection, broken connection. I have to reflow this area, take a close look at it. Well, it's a few days later and I spent a little bit of time trying to troubleshoot this thing. Whatever's wrong is not an obvious broken connection, not that I can see yet. And this video's gone on long enough. The goal was to show you how to replace the belts in one of these things, which we've done. And to be honest, this thing's not going to get a whole lot of use anyway. So that brings me to another point, is that a unit like this, that if it's going to sit on a shelf for a long time and not be used regularly, I'll take the belts out of it so they don't sit in here and retain the shape. And I'll usually take the belts and leave them in the battery compartment. Well, it's too bad we didn't get this 3302 working. And since this one didn't come with any box or any history, I will end this with a quick show and tell of the 3301. This 3301, or the Norelco Carry-corder 150 as it was known in the US, came with this nice presentation box. Came with several blank tapes and a demonstration tape. I was able to date this to 1965 because the original owner was kind enough to date his recordings. And on some of these recordings, it's clear that they had just brought it home from the store and were figuring out how to use it. This demonstration tape has some musical selections on side 1. And on the back side, the original owners made some recordings. I'll leave you with some excerpts from this recording. So that's it for now, and thanks for watching.
It's all direction, that's what gets me is, yeah, I just had it like that and I walk clear over in there. The darn thing just repeats her back. Is that making that thing jump there a little? Yeah, it's recording right now.
Yeah,
Cranky.
of course, I've got it at 7.
7, well that's about, that's okay unless the person wants to make it more sensitive and you could kick her up.
And before bidding the city good night, let us ascend the Highland Terraces to Pacific Heights. Having reached a high point near California and Taylor Street, a beautiful panorama lies spread before you. A million lights sparkle in the dark sea below.
Sounds like Al Jolson.
I'm a coming, hope because that I'm not late on my little mammy. I walk a million miles for one of your smiles, my mammy.
That's 2 Al Jolsons you hear. I'll shut her off and play back. Let's see what we got.
The sunshine west.
Well, there we are, using up another foot or so of tape. I have the mic set up in a hole in the pouch, the little packet that the hole is intended for the mic. And just doing a little low-level deal here, see how it records. If I had the radio on, you'd think this was Al Jolson about now to start a great aria. Guess I'll whistle. Cat, that's just me whistling. You're going crazy, I see. Well, here we go again. Playing these little excerpts back, and more fun than a barrel of monkeys here.
He always followed his mother's wishes. Even on the range he used 2 sets of dishes. Big fat Irving. Big sissy Irving. The 142nd fastest gun in the West. 141 could draw faster than he, but Irving was looking for 143, walking the Saw Saloon like a man insane, and ordered 3 fingers of 2 cents claim. Irving.
It's 21 minutes after 7 on KMBR radio with 51 degrees in the city.
The switch is on there now. She's that red dot.
That means it's recording.
Well, it means the switch is on. And if you have this down and this pressed in, then it's recording like now. Yeah. Turn it off. Highest range would kick it up into
Blame
the
it on
red.
the Boston over there. We will make another mystery call tomorrow night with Super Harlow on KMBR radio. It's 11 minutes before 11 o'clock. Rest the moose on the loose in my airplane, the Super Freak 68. 2 engines on the port, 5 on the starboard. There's 7.